Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Last time we tried to lift my Defender, it didn't go so well. I have received some new shock absorbers because last time I couldn't get the shock absorber to come off. The nut on the shock absorber was just too stuck, and I tried to crack it with a nut cracker, but it didn't go well, and we destroyed the threads on the shock absorber itself. So I've ordered some new shock absorbers and the spring seats as well, and turret rings. Yeah, we're going to park this inside the garage and see if we can lift it this time and actually succeed. Good thing about new shock absorbers is that I just can destroy these that are on, so I think we're going to use the angle grinder a lot. So yeah, let's get it inside and see if we can make this happen this time. Okay, so the reason why I want to lift it in front is because it is leaning a lot. I think that it will look better if it's a bit more level. So as you can see here, it is far from level. So you can actually see how much it leans compared to the level there. So we'll just remember that. And check that again when we have lifted it in the front. And then also we are going to measure. I will measure from the floor center line up to the wheel arch. So let's see. That is 85.5 centimeters thereabout. And we'll check the other side as well. And it's the same. Okay, so yeah. We'll start with lifting the car, take the wheels off, and then we'll see what we are going to do. Yeah. Thank you. Yep. And then we'll do the other side. When doing suspension work, you're supposed to put the jack stands underneath the chassis. That way, when you take the tire off and then release the jack, the axle actually drops all the way down. And that way you can get the most space to work on your suspension. So here I have some new spring seats, and then we have some shocks here, and they should have all the bushes and nuts and stuff with them, I hope. Yes, perfect. So that's going to be everything we need to do this install. And here we have the shock itself. Okay. Oh. Okay, so we'll have a look inside here. In here, underneath this spring seat, we have one big bolt, which the shock absorber is held on with. And then on top of the turret, we also have one bolt. And then we have 4 bolts that hold the turret in place, but I already snapped one of them. So we'll have to remove the lower one, and because last time we failed to do that, it's actually broken. I think I'm just going to get my angle grinder or sawzall and cut the shock absorber off. That way it will be easier to remove. Okay, almost there. Yay! Nice! Some progress made. I will try and take the turret ring nuts off, and then we'll see how much this moves. Because if we actually can get the spring out and then compress the shock, then maybe we can take the whole turret off without having to remove that top one. I'm just hoping, but I don't think that is going to work. I'll undo these 3 remaining nuts, probably snap the studs off, and then we'll compress the spring and take it out, see if we can do that. So we'll see if we can snap this off. Snap, number 1. Snapped it off. And the last one is on this side. Yep. Okay. So now you can see that the turret is loose. And we can actually lift it up quite a bit. So we maybe just have to remove the plastic from inside the engine bay to lift this up enough so that we can remove it with the shock absorber in it. But if not, then we'll have to cut that nut off as well. So now we'll try and compress, or maybe we should loosen the other side too. That way the axle drops more. Yeah, we should do that. Whee! Nice. It's just a shock in the way. Oh, I'll just remove those. And then the shock will not be in the way anymore. And they are 13mm nuts. So just pull on them. Oh. Snapped it off. Yep. Easy enough. Let's see if the turret comes loose. It's probably rusted solid as well. Yep. So here we have the turret ring and all these snapped studs. And that goes in there and then just clamps the turret to the spring mount. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. We will have to remove these plastic covers. And on this side, the left side, it is quite easy because you can see it, and there are small Phillips head screws all around. So we'll take that off, and that way the turret can move up more so that we can wiggle it out of place. Yeah. But on the other side, it is a lot harder to get to it. Okay, that's all 6 little screws removed. So now we can remove this cover. And as you can see here, we have exposed the turret. So now we can try and lift it. Yeah, okay, yeah, so thank you. There we go, that's the turret removed. As you can see here, we would have never ever gotten that bolt or that nut off. We'll clean it up and then we'll probably have to cut it out as well. But now at least we have a shock that we don't care about, so we can use some force. So I'm going to try and remove some stuff here before we can cut the nut off and remove the whole damper. Okay, that's good enough. Now we can see where the knot starts or ends or whatever you want to say. So now we can use the angle grinder and cut the knot off. Whoop. Wow, this must be the original everything. Has been on for 300,000 kilometers, almost 310.
In 25 years.
Whee!
Well,
Wow, that thing just pulverized. It just disappeared. Yep, so that is clean enough. So now the next job is to remove the last part of the shock absorber in the lower part here. Remove the spring seat and then clean that up as well. And then we'll put the lift spacer block on, a new spring seat, the shock absorber and spring itself. Yep. I think that I'll have to cut through this bushing to get the lower part of this mount, of this shock part off. And that way the bolt on the other side, the knot will drop down and we'll be able to remove it that way. But I don't want to damage these bolts because obviously I forgot to buy those. So we'll try and take those off without destroying those. Oh, nice! Now we get easy access to that. Okay, angle grinder time again. Nice, so we'll let that cool down before we put it in the trash. Now we can clean it all off and put the lift blocks in place. Okay, so now it's time to put everything back together, and I've already put the turret in place thereabout. I'm going to try something that's not really recommended by anyone, but we'll see if it works. So I'm actually going to assemble the spring seat and the shock on the lower part before we put the shock and everything back into the car. That way we get easy access to everything while we'll have it on the workbench here. And hopefully, if it works, we'll only have to tighten 2 bolts and the upper shock nut as well. So we'll see, and I'll show you exactly how, because in this with the shock absorbers there comes a little packet with a bunch of bushings, washers as well, and 2 nuts. So I'll show you what to put where. So here we have the lower shock mount. So there are 2 types, one is a bit smaller than the other, and they have a different kind of lip on the bottom as well. So I'll put this one on first. Then we'll put the bush on like that. And then I'll put this washer like this, so that this little lip goes into the hole where it's supposed to seat. Okay, so I'll put that in like that. And then we'll flip it around. And then you see that it comes out there, out of the hole. Then we'll put the same washer in that also has this lip towards the hole. Put it in like that. Put a bush in. And push everything down as much as you can, the bushes. And then another one of these more flat ones on top. There we go. And now it's ready to put the knot back on. So we'll do that now. And you might have to use some force to get it on the threads, because the new bushes actually take up more space than the old ones did. Yep, there we go. And these are 19 millimeters. And I'm not sure if there's a proper torque spec for these, but you can see that I now have pushed the knot down. I've tightened it so that the bushes get compressed, because you don't want any play in here, because that's when the bushes wear prematurely and you'll get noises when the suspension cycles. Now I'll just secure the spring seat onto here with the bolts that come with it. 1 and 2. Oh, I also got a great tip from a viewer in the previous video on the Defender, to put copper grease on all the bolts. That way it will be easy to take off the next time. So I'll take that out and do that. So I'm preparing to mount everything back in place. I've put the bushes on, bush and washers on the top as well, because those we aren't going to reach those once it's up into the turret. I have extended the whole shock because I want to get it into the turret and up into place. So what I'm going to do now is I'll put the spring in, just like that. And then we also cannot forget the turret rings. So now we'll see if my idea actually works. Okay, so we have the whole assembly here. I'll try and put the turret ring in and see if that will stay in place. Okay, yes. If I can secure it with just one nut, then that will make life easier, I think. Anyways, let's see if we can push this into place. Very close. Yeah. Yes. Yep. Ah! Okay, so now that we have this in place, almost, you can see here that where the spring seat is supposed to mount, it's actually leaning quite a lot more than what the spring seat itself does, because the axle is actually drooped that much that it is leaning. So now we have to put a jack under the axle and jack it up to be able to fit the spacer block with 2 bolts to the axle. And also the shock absorber is too short to reach up to the top of the turret as of now. So we'll use the jack to lift it up and into place, and then we can tighten all the bolts. Okay, so when we lift the axle and put this side into place, that means that the other side will not drop as far as we want it to drop to make this install easy. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to do the other side and get it as equally as far as we are on this side. So then when we start lifting the axle, we can actually start and tightening all the nuts and bolts on both sides at the same time and make this an easy job. So that's just a little tip. Okay, so now we have come so far that we are at the same spot on both sides. As you can see, we have the new turret rings in place. We have the spring, we have the new shock absorber, we have the new spring seat, and then we have a new 2-inch lift spacer. So what we have to do now is we are going to put the jack underneath the axle and raise it so that the spring mounts will go up and be straight, and that way we can use our 2 bolts to mount the spacer blocks to the axle on both sides. And then when they are both mounted and tightly secured, then we can raise the axle up and push the shock absorber into the turret, and then we can put the top knot on as well. Put the 2 covers back on, and then we're done. Let's do that, and let's hope I can do it by myself. Let's see if I can get the rear one in. Very close. Not quite yet. There we go. Nice. Okay, yes. So now that one is in, and it'll actually hold the spring in place now. So now we'll go to the other side, make sure that there's also 1 bolt securing that, and then we can raise the axle up a bit higher, and then we can do the front ones. There we go. Now I'll raise the suspension up, raise the axle, and then you can see that the gap there up front will tighten. And then we can put the other bolts in. Okay, I'm just going to tighten those real quick, and then we'll continue on tightening the top shock mounts. Now the next part is to put the bush and washers onto the top of the shock absorber. And this can be a bit hard sometimes because you have to get the thread through all the way. Otherwise it's hard to get the knot on, but we seem to have managed. We did the other side already, and when I tried to get the knot on, Jonathan was underneath here and pushed the shock absorber up as much as he could. That way the knot could get hold of some thread. And we'll have to do that here as well. So again, we'll put the washer on with a little lip first. So that it goes into the hole. Then we'll put the bush on, or bushing, and then the rounder one, the bigger one, and then a nut. And then we'll try and get it to grip. Okay, so now the nut is on and it has some thread. I'll just use my impact gun to compress the bushings a little. So there we go. You just want to get this to protrude above the nut a little. And then you're basically finished. So what we are going to do is we are going to reinstall these covers onto here with the little screws. Put this coolant reservoir back on. I didn't show you how to take it off because this isn't an original part. It's an Sport one. So I actually don't know how the original one looks. You just have to figure that out yourself. So we'll put all the screws back into that little cover. We'll put the expansion tank back on, do the same on the other side, and then we'll jack it up, put the wheels back on, and see how much we have actually lifted it. Finally, we've put everything back together. So we got the shocks installed, and we've put those little covers back on again and the expansion tank as well. So now it's time to raise the whole car up so I can remove the jack stands, and then we'll put the wheel back on and see if there's any difference. Okay, the moment of truth. Wow. Okay, nice. Now look at this, the level. It's still tilting slightly forward. So earlier it was like this, and it's called, and now it's like this. So that made a big difference actually. And wow. Wow, I'm really happy with that result. Let's just jump up and down on the bumper, get some weight on it. Whoop. Okay, so the measurement before was 85.5 centimeters from the ground through the center up to the wheel arch. So let's see what we have now. 90, almost 91. So that was, 5.5 centimeters of difference on a 5 centimeter lift. And the same on the other side. So we actually got a full 2-inch lift from that. And still the rear end is taller than the front, so that's perfect. It really sits perfect now. So it's now about 3 o'clock at night, so we are going to quit there, go to bed, and then tomorrow I'll just walk around the car outside and show you the difference. Okay, sorry guys, it's now a few weeks later, and I'm sorry that you have had to wait on this video. In the last shot, I promised you I show you some after shots of what the Defender looks like with the new lift. But it has been loaded most of the time, so I haven't actually been able to give you a fair view what the lift actually did. But still, you can see here that it looks really good. I also, since a video, I changed the bed mount, so the bed is leaning slightly forward now, so that's not a good point of reference anymore. I will adjust the bed mounts to make the bed fit level as well, that the whole truck will be level. I will be going to the metal recycling plant and throw some metal away and get some money for it. Got a Toyota engine, for example, a whole Disco 1 chassis, and then a bunch more just scrap metal. So I'll just make sure to do that real quick, and then when I get home I'll be able to take you on a walk around with the bed unloaded, and then I'll just throw in some comparison shots of the befores and the afters. Okay, so there you have it. I just unloaded the bed. Now you can see that the front wheel arch has a lot more clearance than before, because before it was almost touching the tire. Well, not really, but it was dipping down a lot. So yeah, I really like how it sits at the moment. It's still slightly leaning forward, but it's looking a lot better. It still doesn't sag in the rear when you load it a lot, because I've already had 1100 kilos on the back at once, and that's when it started to sag a little, but then we were also over the legal limit. I'm really pleased with the result, and I hope you liked this video. I hope it gave you any tips. Usually when I do jobs on my car that I haven't done before, it's always nice to see someone else do it and to show some of the struggle as well. Maybe get some tips out of someone else's video. So I hope I can contribute with that. And yeah, I hope you subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you in the next one.